Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Eyeic and I hope you're having a wonderful day. And today we're going to be talking about leagues which comes out tomorrow and the relics and just how powerful each one is, ranking them in a tier list. So somehow I've managed to convince two of my friends to come on this podcast and talk about this with me. And I just want to quickly say thank you to both these guys. They're both experts in their own particular areas of the game. And honestly, they indulge me so much with my silliness. So I'm just glad to have them on here. What we're going to do is we're going to go what all of us agreed has been the worst relic. So I've basically taken everyone's rankings for each relic in the tier list, 1 through 21. So there's 21 relics, and we're going to start at the very bottom, and then we're going to slowly work our way up to the best. So any guesses as to what was the absolute bottom of the barrel?
I have a guess. And this isn't one where I would have put it personally. Golden footed.
You're really close. So it's not golden footed.
Is it 5-finger discount then?
Number 21 is 5-finger discount. Both of us agreed it was F tier. Yeah, Dust, why is it not an F tier?
So I was considering the resource collecting from Prifdinus specifically. If you're not having to fail, and I think a lot of the perspectives that I was giving to these relics is how it would end up overall rather than how it would start. Just seed collection would be incredible with it late game. But I don't know if it's going to be better than bossing necessarily.
Okay, so golden footed, second worst. Yeah, I just think this feels like the agility pyramid that got developed into a full relic. It's essentially for people who don't want to do agility, but realistically, Anachronia on 16 times agility XP, you're looking at doing agility for maybe 4 hours to get 99. Like, am I crazy?
That's basically why I think this relic's unpickable. It at most saves you 4 hours.
Well, the money is actually why I put it there. Because it'd be a really quick way to jumpstart your character. I'm assuming we're going to have traveling merchants, right?
I would assume so.
I think one oversight they're going to absolutely make, though, is what's that Thalmander guy? The Necro store?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
That comes once a week. I think that is going to be very easy to abuse.
Certainly. And specifically with the gold, it's the other shop runs that I'm considering early on that you might want to take advantage of for teleport runes. I mean, just rune shop runs in general. If you are looking for invention components until you get to Perkfection, you're gonna need money to travel to Anachronia, finish up the weapon store there. It's gonna have a lot of early game utility. I think it's a relic that you would pick if you were really motivated specifically for PVM, but just for overall skilling.
That's fair. That's fair. I think one of the benefits of us being Irons is like seeing a lot of the early game shopscape that not a lot of mains probably see. And I think one of the things that will probably be oversight is the Mazcab potion shop. So if you have the money, the shop just auto restocks. You're going to be able to buy all of your overload supply there if you have the money for it.
Yeah, you were spilling my plan.
Oh no.
So you brought up something I was going to talk about when we get to Perkfection.
Okay, well that's going to be in like an hour. So we'll get there when we get there.
I'll hold it till then.
Okay, cool. So for ranking 19, we actually have two that have tied. Animal Wrangler and Rejuvenated are tied at the third worst spot. Rejuvenated, I personally put in the D tier, and then both of you put in the F tier. And I feel like I need to justify that a little bit. I think there are not great relics in the first section. Like, there's a pretty clear path of, which again, we'll get to later, but I think there's a very obvious early game path. Now, the reason that I put it in the D tier is I feel like anyone that makes a mistake. So let's say someone accidentally takes Animal Wrangler for the first time, and then they get to tier 4 and they see all of their friends using Excavator. I think it's a great opportunity for someone who's new to leagues to be able to go back. Would I ever take it? Absolutely not. But I think for the average player, it has some value.
Well, you don't even need to go back that far for Rejuvenated necessarily, but it really kind of in the same line of thought that you're taking. It just allows you to double down on scaling relics. We're not even at the combat portion of it.
Animal Wrangler, though, can we talk about how irrelevant this is, please?
It's the best of the F tier. I mean, or the worst of the F tier. The most F of the tier. That's how I kind of view it.
Yeah,
I don't know
like
why it's. I don't know why it's a perk.
the first tier for me is such an obvious choice. You could have given me the other two perks, and I still would have the same choice. You could combine the two of them, and I would still take the other one. Like Animal Wrangler doesn't give you anything. Like it's like, oh, you fish a little bit faster. Great, that's not a skill I'm worried about leveling.
For guaranteed success at catching your prey.
Yeah, it's
I'm not meaning chinchompas. I don't understand. Like what?
yeah, exactly. Like it's like half a relic.
I think they needed to add a third skill in there to make it feel viable, because divination is worth it for the invention side of things. Having archaeology relics and being able to get those bonuses as well faster, it just doesn't feel like hunter and fishing give you any. The next up, we have fairy flight. So again, both of you have put this in F tier. I have actually put it in B tier. So I feel like I need to be the one to justify. I just put all of the teleport relics in B tier. Personally, I think RS3 is such a vast game, and there's so many teleports like across it, that it's not hard to get place to place, either in items or in there's quick ways to get to fairy rings, or you can make a passage of the abyss. I just think all of them are but you kind of have to take one. So of all of them, it is my lowest ranking teleport one, just because I think the other ones give you a little bit more value.
Right.
So,
and on that, I'll just speak quickly first, because I didn't really give fairies flight too much thought, frankly. Simply because you could literally get a Legendscape and get to a fairy in 2 seconds. And when it comes to the trees, obviously the Grand Exchange is the easiest access point.
I just found that like fairy rings in RS3 are just not super useful. You have so many ways to get around the game. Like in general, I think this whole tier are the weakest relics in the whole league. Like I would have put them all really low, but because you basically get to pick one for free, I ranked one of them really high because it's a free pick.
Which
so I
one
just
was
picked the best of this tier, right? So in my opinion, it's not Fairy's Flight, which is why it gets F. I think this tier is another auto pick. The first three tiers are really easy picks for me.
I
Yeah,
will
I would
say
agree.
this. I believe that we all have the same first 4 relic picks. So I think that's quite interesting, that even though our tier lists are vastly different, I would say that the early game path is very, very synonymous to having an obvious choice. Next up, we have our second skilling relic, which is Divine Woodcutter.
It's not bad, but it's the other one's just better, is why I think it's a trash tier one.
I put it in the D tier because it mirrored the live game so closely. I didn't think it was that unique. And from the divination aspect of it, I didn't really care too much about the woodcutting, because even then that mimics the sentinel of it pretty closely. But with it really just being the runic tuner earlier than you would have it, that doesn't really mean much to me, I think. I think it's a little bit of a trap, especially when you're comparing it to the other two.
And realistically, I think one of the good paths in this game, because it gives mining, divination, agility, construction, and crafting XP, doing gate as a training method is going to be a totally valid thing. So you might get an attuner. Sorry, attuner is not the correct one. We're saying the wrong one. What is the correct one?
Oh, look at very careful.
Oh, you're thinking of the runic tuner. Yeah, the dowser.
The red banana
The
memory
dowser.
dowser.
Thank you. Oh my
Memory
god.
dowser.
I said a tuner, and then I think I forced Dustin to say a tuner, like subconsciously.
You said it, and I'm like, what is this thing called? It's not called that. It's the dowser.
The memory dowser. Okay, there's a
don't have it
chance
on my
that you
Iron Man,
get
so
the
it's-
memory. There's the chance that you get the memory dowser, which I think is I agree with Dustin. It is 100% a trap to take Divine Woodcutter.
And I feel like everyone's gonna do early divination through the caches anyways.
Oh, it's gonna be so fast.
Yeah, like I'm just gonna do caches till I get the dowser.
Well, and to that point, everyone will get the dowser. At the level that you automatically have Gate of Elidinus unlocked,
Yep.
you're already going to be flying. The drop
Isn't
rates
it-
are going to be multiplied significantly.
Rank 15 overall, we have Voidwalker. Again, I'm just gonna say it. It's, to me, the teleports aren't that important, but it is slightly better than Fairy's Flight. As someone that's done a lot of clues, there are particularly niche teleports that really improve the speed that you can do clues at. So I think this is going to be a must if you take Clue Connoisseur, but otherwise it's pretty meh.
I think this one depends on whether or not you take Farming Frenzy. If you don't have Farming Frenzy, Fairy's Flight is so much better than this. If you do have Farming Frenzy, this one's better than Fairy's Flight.
Coming in at our lowest combat relic, Soulbourne.
I think it's fine to pick. It's going to be really noob friendly. It's going to be a lot of people come into the league who don't really do a lot of content. I think it's an awesome pick for them.
I kind of took all of the PVM relics and I consider them all compared to one another. And when it, like, if you're comparing it to melee, magic, or ranged, it's kind of as you're saying, it's a noob friendly combat style. But this relic doesn't really do much for it. Not in the same way that the perks on the other relics really give them an identity, I would say, except larger enemies, I suppose. To the credit of the necromancy relic, having the full tree active instantaneously, that is powerful at any stage of necromancy.
Yeah.
I think we had actually made a point about Soulbourne that DIY, you were saying specifically something about this, about the conjures, that I want you to rehash a little bit.
So I'll talk about the conjures now. So this is where in the Soulbourne relic, they have what could be a nerf depending on how they implemented it. So they have your conjures are 25% larger. Now, does that mean their models get blocked 25% easier? Because if you've ever done necromancy at Raksha, you'll know that when she goes to P4, your skeleton almost always gets trapped on the stairs and you have to resummon it. You have to unequip your lantern and resummon them or you lose a ton of damage. So I'm wondering if they've made them 25% bigger, are they going to get stuck on more things and lose damage because of that?
Do we think Jagex just coded a 25% size increase and didn't consider anything else? There's a possibility.
I think there's an argument to be made for that. Yeah. I see, and I was thinking of how absolutely chaotic group PVM would be when you have these summons that are about the same size of a character. So let's say you're at raids and you have 10 people and they all have 4 conjures apiece.
Oh, plus a familiar.
Plus a familiar, right? Plus whatever animations they've gone. You'll never find the poison. I promise. It'll never happen. And just the headache that's involved with it, dude.
I am so ready for the visual spaghetti that League's group bossing is going to bring to the game.
I'm excited for the Wildy Star event where I'm not going to be able to see anything because of all the minions.
Oh, that's great.
Everyone's going to be spamming the summon household, the summon all minions, because it costs 95% chance to save your Ecto. And they're just, everyone's going to be using it on that the whole time. You're not going to be able to see the ground.
So anyways, at rank 13, we have Banker's Note.
I have watched a lot of past League content involving Banker's Note, but those types of elements in RS3, I would say just don't exist. And I'm specifically thinking of extended combat encounters or going into something early on that you might need, a boatload of extra supplies for. And that could be somebody, face tanking the Inferno. We don't really have that in RS3, at least to the point where if you were doing it properly or if you have knowledge of it already, I think this relic would just be a complete throwaway.
So for me, I don't understand why they put a bank picture on this relic. I think they should have put a rune crafting icon because this is the rune crafting relic. So the where this relic gets all of its power. So I agree with your assessment that there's basically no Inferno in RS3. There's no extended combat encounter where this gets a ton of value. There's no raids where if you die once, you're done. You can basically bank anywhere in RS3 except for the Zuck fight that's 10 minutes long with the League relics. So I don't see it. Yeah, exactly. I don't see it having a lot of extended fight value. I think it's going to have some nice quality of life where you hit one button and you just, there's an inventory of sharks. You can do some PVM early, just face tanking, whatever, to get points early. The Relic's a little too late in the league for that, though. So because it's so late, I don't think there's a lot of value from that. Where all of the value for this relic for me comes from is you can stand at an altar, unnote your essence, craft, unnote your essence, craft. And another side effect of this is you can go through the abyss, stand next to whatever altar you want, and get a ton of threads in like a minute and a half. Because you're going to be able to go unnote craft, unnote craft, unnote craft, unnote craft. And all of the power for this relic, like 99% of the power is rune crafting is now get essence, you're 110.
No, I would agree with you on that, but with it only really benefiting one skill. And then, though, to your point, rune pouches, they're going to be a necessity in a lot of cases, just to simplify inventories. But I don't think it's that much of a time save overall.
Banker's Note elevates itself if you can right-click on the banknote and click Load Last Preset.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't have load last preset, you probably lose about a tick going open bank button. And the only disadvantage would be like if you're in combat, you wouldn't be able to do it.
So rune crafting, yes. Construction. I think you could do construction contracts quite easily with this and quite efficiently. Yes, you have to teleport around to do it, but it definitely makes construction faster. The other ones are summoning, farm runs if you don't take the farming relic, and maybe some fishing. Next up at rank 12, I think this was the first relic that everyone got really excited about when it came out. Production Master. So I see this as they fit the most features into this relic. If Animal Wrangler felt underwhelming with features, this feels overwhelming with features. So not only do you get all of the summonable spirits, so you've got the Clue Spirit, Saren Spirit, the Component Spirit, and I believe there's one other that I am not thinking of, but you also get unlimited urns for free, which means you get 25% more XP in a wide variety. Sorry, 20% or 25% once you actually get the invention upgrade.
Mhm.
It instantly processes some of the personally worst skills to train in the game and makes them super fast, especially if you're going to be doing ranged. I think the fletching aspect of this is going to be really big. I personally just see this as one of the most well thought out perks.
I kind of see it as the jack of all trades. In this particular league, if you want to move quickly to the end, to the end game, back to bossing, this just felt like a no-brainer because, like you said, it has such a swath of benefits that really touch on the playstyles of every player. When you combine it with the Brute of the Elder Gods, specifically with them getting the different spirits, the divine, the Saren, the catalyst of alteration and such, those are going to be incredibly powerful for just extra XP gain, because I'm sure that will also be multiplied. But it can also the rewards that you would get from like Saren spirits, for instance, early on would be, or not early on necessarily, but at the time that you get this, would be a very powerful way of catapulting you and providing you with a lot of materials, potions, what have you, that you could use.
Yeah, I think this relic is one of the strongest ones in the league. One of the problems, so I'm not planning on taking it, and the reason I'm not taking it is when I do a league is I'm always playing for the Dragon Trophy, and then I stop playing. So to me, I need to set aside a bunch of AFK activities so I don't burn out. And this basically removes the AFK activities, but it's extremely efficient for like times to point gain. It gets you to the end game really quickly. Like you get to just this relic is so powerful in old school, and we don't even have banked preset. This is going to be load last preset 1 enter, load last preset 1 enter. You're going to be getting like hundreds of millions of XP per hour once you've banked your items. Like this, you're going to fly through the processing skills with this relic.
I am personally excited to see what XP rates people can push out during this league. Like, will we see someone doing 10 million in XP an hour? Will we see maybe 20 million XP an hour? Like, at what point does someone just absolutely juice the game to like hit this new essentially world record of RuneScape XP per hour?
I think you've already hinted at that. If you were to go Banker's Note and summoning, I think you could easily clean 50 million without a question.
With the correct setup. And again, this is kind of going on the idea that Banker's Note will have that load last preset. I think, yes, around 100 mil an hour doing summoning sounds totally feasible to me. Okay. For the 10th spot, we have a tie between the second combat relic, Bombardment, and Everlasting Faith, the prayer relic. So both of these were really propped up by one individual. So for Bombardment, it was rank 3 overall for Dustin at S tier, and I actually have Everlasting Faith as the second overall pick in S tier as well, but you guys have it at C and B tier. So let's talk about Bombardment first. I think it's, again, one of the better combat ones just because of the weapons, not because of anything that really it gives. It does give AoE, it does give some additional benefits, but I think the ranged weapons really carry this relic.
So aside from just the end game, one thing you got to be careful with in leagues is only looking at the end game and not the path to it. Is all three of the other styles have really easy paths early game, whereas Bombardment I think has the hardest early game out of all of them. You may get the best late game once you have everything, but you got to get there first, and that can take a long time because this relic, it doesn't really give you anything early game. Like it gives you a little bit of AoE, which is great, you can now do Slayer with ranged. And other than that, it's such a hard style to gear for and to get the weapons for and to get the setup for to the point where it's good. That's why I ranked it last. I don't think you can pick combat style and not have fun. Like, I think the combat styles kind of just pick what you want to play, but out of them, I think range is the worst of the combat styles.
Coming at it from the exact opposite perspective, the single target range, like the AoE damage, that doesn't necessarily matter to me, but the ranged ability and special attacks being reduced by 20%, when you're comparing that with like a Saren Godbow, that is enormous. Absolutely enormous. Rapid firing. Okay, so I'm going to take a step back. You were also saying it's the hardest one to gear for to really allow it to bloom. I would agree. And that's also why I chose it. I really felt that Magic, it'd be too simple. It'd be too easy. I think Melee is also very strong, close to Bombardment, but the difficulty of it just seemed more appealing to me using the ranged relic.
I am so curious to see why this is a thing for you guys, but Assassin's Insight is ranked 9th overall. I have it at 15th in the B tier, but to be fair, it's the top teleport for me. You guys have it at 6th and 4th, both in the S tier. Please explain to me why this is so good.
I'll start. The sheer amount of locations that it unlocks, because it's not just Slayer Bastards, Slayer Dungeons, but Slayer creatures. There are so many nooks and crannies, Aquanites, for example, that you can snap your fingers to get to. If you're looking at a relic specifically to give you access to a lot of obscure but useful locations, yes, it is incredible.
The other two relics give you teleports you can already get. This one gives you new teleports. And when you're doing Slayer, it's going to be TP to Slayer Master, task, TP to task. TP to Slayer Master, task, TP to task. It's going to make it so smooth. Just go back and forth. You're going to be hitting so much damage, just AoE cleaving everything down. The tasks are going to fly by. You can always get good tasks that you want. I don't think this relic against most of the other relics would be picked, but because it's in the teleport tier and the other two are, they're whatever, I think this one's an easy auto pick.
So you guys just ranked it very highly because it was the obvious choice of teleporters, not that it, compared to the rest of the relics, was like the most viable.
Correct.
Yep, because I'm not going to compare it against like Specialist and say, no, this is definitely right up there.
Yeah, that'd be an easy pick if this was a Specialist.
All right, coming in at number 8, we have the Melee Combat Relic.
So I think this is the best combat relic by a mile. I think this one crushes the other ones because it is extremely easy to gear for melee because it's the only one of the 3 combat styles that has a flat damage increase and not a percent multiplier. The second you get this relic, you can take bronze daggers, they're tier 80 because it's plus 500 flat damage. You get 10% of all damage sustained. That's better than Soul Split because there's no damage cap on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you get the +1 range, so you're going to be AoEing Slayer monsters down even easier. I think this is like the best out of all the combat ones for me.
See, I'm not even considering Slayer as a hurdle or anything to really measure my combat skill, the combat abilities up to in terms of the relics. What I'm trying to compare it against is what's the absolute mind-boggling combination that you can pull out of the combat styles with everything. And melee is incredibly strong, and I think it's even more noob friendly than necromancy to that point because of the baked-in healing
and the 500 base damage,
and the fact that mining smithing gives you the weapons and allows you to progress quite easily. I think overall that I would agree that it is simple. It's a good relic. I'm just personally not a meleeer, and that's why it's not one of the best for me. But I definitely see the value in it.
Yeah, like that's the cool thing about the combats is you can take any of the 4 and have fun in the league. You're gonna have fun. You're gonna hit hard. I think melee's the best, but like we're talking like a couple % different between the other specs. Like it's not like, oh, anyone who doesn't go melee is an idiot. I think melee's the best.
Well, and melee it's going to be super simplistic because once you get your elder rune, you go get your kiln cape, you go get your vestments and your Zuck sword, and then go get a Dragonclaw EOF, and you will profit.
I think the point that DIY made about being able to basically have bronze daggers and be at tier 80, I personally think is crazy because you have that 100% hit chance, right? Which means that out of all of the different combat relics, if you're going to try and do a rush, it might be the best to do it with melee versus the other styles.
I think it's hands down the best.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make an argument for the next relic. but I would agree it is one of the best for rushing bosses and trying to get basically accelerated into the late game. I think this is a perfect segment because right above it, we have Crit Happens. And I think as the mage user, I'm just going to take over for a little bit here. So Crit Happens, for me, putting my preference for combat aside, DIY just made a point of saying that melee has the easiest tier 90. Well, I'm going to counter with Magic has the easiest tier 95.
I agree.
And Sanctum, essentially, the path is going to be get like tier 50, go to Krill, get Subjugation, go to Hellweir, get your weapons. You don't actually even need that. You could probably do it in Mystic Wand and Orb, and then just go to Nakatra and unlock tier 95. I think the fact that yeah, they really considered basically the crit aspect of it. So your Fractured Staff is going to be very important to get in this build. But I think everything that's magic is super accessible. I'll be curious to see how many people want to go out and do a masket in leagues. I think hopefully I'll be able to find a crew to do that. But I personally see it as, again, it's one of those ones that's super easy to accelerate into the end game, is sustainable, syncs well with some of the end game relics.
This is my number 2. And I was routing Magic for a bit because I was going to go it. Like, I was seriously considering doing Magic because you can get the tier 90s from normal mode Nakatra. Or, sorry, the tier 95s from normal mode Nakatra, and then use those to get the staff. Because, like, obviously you don't want to do a burn build with the crit, but I this one is... I think this is the second best tied-ish with Necromancy. Necromancy is a little bit easier to gear for, easier to play. I think this one's stronger in the late game.
I think that this relic is incredibly boring compared to the other combat relics.
I am 100% with you. This is the most plain Jane of the 4 relics.
This is just more of what it is already. It's just giving it a bigger number. I think all of the paths are ultimately going to lead towards best in slot for everything, but how you get there will differ. Pivoting off of what you were talking about, Eyeic, originally, is getting your Cywears and then going for Nakatra. I personally would take a different route. If I was doing Magic, I'd go Cywears, and then I'd go to Telos. I'd grab a staff from there, and then go get a Fractured Staff. And
you would go Sauce
really
over Nakatra?
Sauce for the weapon tier, absolutely.
Okay.
Isn't Nakatra like a 1 in 5 for a Wander offhand in the league?
No, it would be maximum 6 times. But I would just like to say that if I am going to Nakatra with Cywears, I am 100% doing hard mode Nakatra because of all of the buffs. I would be farming for a shard specifically for the staff while I am going for the weapons simultaneously.
Aren't Cywears terrible in the league because they're 90 accuracy, 80 damage? Like, they're just tier 80s?
Not wrong, but I mean, I guess you could get a chaotic staff, but farming tokens also sucks.
That would take, at this point in the league though, that would take...
Maybe you can snipe the elites in elite dungeons and get it pretty quick.
It's going to be very fast, regardless. And I just say Cywears because that boss is so accessible already. 80 magic to get in. Okay.
Your Magic Sun Spear is the same. Basically, it's two less than the
Cywears.
Right,
the 78.
I mean, I really haven't mapped it out that much, but I think the idea of basically jumping from, let's say, like tier 10, tier 30, tier 50 to tier 80, and then trying to get that tier 90, 95, 100 is like a very viable path. What specifically those weapons are, who knows? All right, coming in at number 6, and it is a tier 1 relic. We have Excavator. I think this is the obvious choice. I think if you take any of the other ones, you have not talked to anyone about this league, or you don't know anything about the general early game path.
I would say you haven't read what the relics do, or you simply don't understand the skills that you're touching, which all the others.
I think this is the only relic you could not take and regret. Like, like this relic is so unbelievably powerful, and it's a tier 1. Like, this is everything it does is incredible. It solves a 120 skill, a 110, and a 110. It's infinite porters. It makes the skill completely free. It gets crafting to 99 for 1 click every 10 minutes. Like,
yeah.
There's nothing bad about this relic, and it's so overpowered you can't not take it.
I would just like to back up that comment of infinite porters. It's not infinite porters, it's infinite porters in archaeology and mining specifically.
Right. Well,
sorry, it's infinite porters and 80% of the content you use porters for.
I was gonna say that's 100% of the content you would only use porters for. When I saw the benefits coming from this is the first of the relics that they had revealed that I saw. I just knew immediately, like, this is this is the one you have to go with,
Yep.
period. I didn't care where it was. You had to choose it.
Exactly. I agree.
I think the big one for me for archaeology is that the material costs are halved. And I think this one's kind of underrated. The time sprites are stationary and follow the player. The fact that you're just going to essentially farm
Yeah.
more artifacts and more materials per hour is going
With
to be
less
crazy.
movement.
I would be really curious, and I don't think anyone should go for this, period. But having the Balarax Sash Brush with this Excavator perk, it specifically moves between, and every time you farm from the focused, you gain an additional material 6 times in a row. I'm curious to see if anyone ever unlocks it, if it just stays in one spot and you get 6, like 7, 8 times procs in a row from the same location, which would be so funny. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the other thing to be noted is that archaeology relics are so important.
Not
Like-
just the perks themselves, it's the passives that get along with it. Like just the sheer amount of increases to your relic power that'll allow you to combine these different perks in different ways.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I can't imagine doing anything without heightened senses or conservation of energy for bossing. That would you'd be kneecapping yourself at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like just to like hammer home this relic, if you gave me both of the other relics or this one, I would still pick this one.
Okay, we're getting into the top 5 now. I think this is another very obvious choice when it comes to the relic tiers. But at number 5, we have Farming Frenzy. Between Five Fingered Discount and Golden Footed, which we both put as 2 of the worst relics, it feels so unfair that Farming Frenzy is even compared to these 2.
Yeah. This is another case of you could give me both of them, I would still take Farming Frenzy.
You know, I have a feeling now that we're talking about it, I think that they made some of these early relic choices in such a way that it was obvious that there wouldn't be too much regret that you would have. So I think a lot of folks, if they're going to be doing the league, they're really going to be running it as fast as they can. And this just, and if you pick the right things, dude, you're going to be flying so freaking fast.
I think you might be right of like it was a design choice to essentially give for at least the first part of it. There are reasons that you could take those, but I'd be curious to see the stats at the end of the league of what was the distribution of choices. Because I'm sure for the combat relics, it will be pretty even across of them. But I'm sure when it comes to Excavator and when it comes to Farming Frenzy, that it will be like 80-90% of people choose these 2. But yeah, I think just because of the combat, the implications of herb lore, there's no reason not to take this.
Yeah, it's another relic
by the
where
time
they
that
put the wrong icon on it. It shouldn't be a farming relic, it should be a herb lore relic.
I agree. And frankly, by the time that you get to even starting the combat relics, you're already going to want to have everything that herb lore can offer you. You'll want to have overloads unlocked. I'm personally going to be immediately going for bomb bombs and elder overloads, obviously, and adrenaline renewals. The earlier you can start on these things, the much better you're going to be positioning yourself later in the league.
I think the very interesting thing is that with Production Master, how fast you're going to be actually be able to like accelerate into 99, maybe even 120 herb lore. I think you might be not even done tier 7 by the time that you're hitting that because of all of the herbs that you're able to farm, and because of all of the early game Slayer monsters dropping these herb seeds now, I think you'd be able to accelerate yourself pretty quickly. I think secondaries is probably going to be more of an issue. Number 4. So I think this was quite the interesting one. And probably the most controversial between the 3 of us. But at position number 4, we have Clue Connoisseur. Now, I want to remind everyone that this is up against Rejuvenated and Production Master. So, Dustin, why don't you start us off?
Well, you kind of just finished on it. Production Master, by and large, with, we spoke about it earlier. It was the clear winner. And then if you're also comparing it to like, what are the strengths of doing clues? A lot of that can be fixed with another relic that will ultimately save time. I'm not particularly famous for enjoying clue scrolls, and I don't plan on playing my league around them either. But in terms of what clues can do for me, it's going to be all about like, what does it do for PVM? And as I mentioned, the only reason I would do clues would be for components, and that's no longer an issue with this league fortunately.
All right. I know DIY has a very specific reason why he has ranked it at number 1. You kind of elaborate on that one.
So when I play the leagues, I play for points. I want the Dragon Trophy. That's the whole reason I play them. The Clue Connoisseur Relic is the best relic for easy points. This relic means you never have to do a clue puzzle. You get almost 4 times the expected clues, and you teleport to every step. You're going to be going through every clue task so quickly with this relic. It's the biggest time save out of all the relics in the entire league. I'm sad it's up against Production Master because I wanted it, but I think this is the best relic in the whole league if you care about getting points.
I could see that. What do we need to hit Dragon? Is it the same as it is in old school?
No, it's different for every league.
I believe it's 60,000 points.
Yeah, it's always a lot.
Which to clarify, so you unlock tier 7 at 26,000 points. So essentially, you need to do double tier 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think initially what my plan for this league is just combat. I wasn't really focusing too much on the trophies. To that point, I think that, granted, I agree it probably won't be as easy as with the Clue Relic, but I think by the end of the league, I'll be at that trophy regardless of which path I would take. So for me, it's not so much a speed thing or an ease. It's just what comes along.
This choice will get reevaluated when we know all of the relics, like all of the tasks.
Sure.
Based on my knowledge from getting Dragon in 5 old school leagues, clues are like a third of the total points, is how they are in old school. So if it's like that in RS3, I'm taking this. Sorry?
Are those tasks specific to collection logging in old
school?
So
a lot of them are. So there's usually do like 500 clues, equip a gilded item, equip a full set of God Rune, equip a full set of God D'hide, equip the trimmed magic robes. So there's a lot of getting specific clue items. There's a lot of total number of clues completed, and there's a lot of have this many collection slots unlocked that are all they're basically clue tasks because so many collection slots will come from clues. And because that makes this so much easier to do, and you get way more rewards, your clues are much shorter. I am expecting this to be the best relic for just point farming.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna come in the middle here and say there is something that is lacking about this relic that does not elevate it above Production Master for me. And that is not having all of your stash units automatically filled out. Now, the reason
you can skip those clues.
Now I know you can skip. So one of the benefits of taking Clue Connoisseur is that you're able to unlock the Globetrotter outfit immediately and have unlimited usage of it, which allows you to skip clues that are emote clues. Well, it's pretty easy to fill out your easy, your mediums, and maybe your hards. And there maybe isn't the most for elite and masters that you could get away with it. But if those were filled out, I think it would really accelerate the number of clues that you could do per hour. I don't see it as necessary to get those points. You could still do clues and get, the points from unlocking a certain number of slots quite easily. I think it's just going to be, maybe you won't get the elite or the masters, but maybe it'll be pretty easy to get some hard, especially if you've done clues before and are used to the clue locations and the teleports and the movement and all of that stuff.
I would hope that having the Clue Relic wouldn't gatekeep completing certain challenges.
In OSRS leagues, it traditionally has. People who did not have the Clue Relic were unable to do most of the clue tasks. And if you look at the top league performance for every single league, almost every single player takes the Clue Relic.
I think there's a key piece of the puzzle that is the difference between RS3 and old school, and that's the amount of content and how easy it is to do clues, right? So in old school, at the time, you could only have one clue at a time. It was decently hard to get. RS3, you can stack them, and it's pretty easy. You have all the teleports to get around. It's not that bad.
Yeah, in the league, they stack.
In RS3, there's also so much more Slayer and bossing content that I think will skew the points to, rather than be like a third of it is clues, closer to a quarter. and that most people will be able to get dragon solely from PvNing. Okay, cool. All right, we are in the top 3. So naturally, all of these are the final tier 7. I think all of us agreed that all 3 of these are very particularly strong. Actually, no, I lied. Not all of these. I forgot that Everlasting Faith was number 10, but 2 of these are. So coming in at rank 3, we have Ascension. I think this is the perfect pairing with Magic, and I can see why not a lot of other styles would choose Ascension over Specialist.
I think this one for Magic and Necromancy is an auto pick. Like you could consider Everlasting Faith, but damage is good. So I think this is the auto pick for Mage and Necro. And for Melee specifically, there's a really interesting interaction because all of the book's damage effects scale off of your weapon damage, and Melee has the plus 50% base, and range doesn't have plus anything. So for range, it doesn't really make sense to take Ascension. And for Melee, I think you can take Specialist, but I think Ascension is better for Melee.
Starting from the range perspective, and not that great. The biggest thing that comes out of it for ranged like end game builds would be the Grimoire. Though the other effects of the books would be nice, and then the level bonus, it sounds a lot bigger than I feel it will actually be. I don't think it's the right pick for ranged, considering also all of the other combat mechanics with special attacks that we're going to be dealing with. For Melee, honestly, it's also going to be special attack focused almost exclusively. The skipping out on extra easy K attacks more often once would be a mistake, in my opinion. Or not being able to Dragon Claw or use your Granite Maul or your Dragon Longsword, depending on the content that you're doing.
One last thing I want to say about this before we move on. There's also the benefit of this works when you AFK. There's going to be a lot of time during the league where AFK is nice. Like if you just want to Green Log, God Wars Dungeon 2, there's probably going to be tasks for all of that. Like equip every item from God Wars Dungeon 2. This works while you're AFKing and Spec doesn't.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Cool. Well, we are getting down to the top 2 now. Perkfection. So we've talked about the Banker's Note side of things, right? But Perkfection takes out, much like the Excavator, so much that just is maintenance man mode of the game and really allows you to skip the unessential farming of components to get the perks that you want for combat. And if PVM is ultimately the way that you either want to get points or that's your goal in the league, I think this is 100% an easy choice.
And not just to build off of that as well, there is so much RNG when it comes to leveling up components, or not leveling up components, but the spending them. You really never know what you're going to get. And I've spent, personally, I've lost at least 4 or 5 rolls using nauseous components for combinations that I'm trying to pair with a biting 4, then it just becomes a biting 3 or a biting 1. It's absurd how low you can roll on that particular table with those higher end materials. Not to mention, you also have to consider your leveling your items. Granted, that could also be quick, but at the same time, you're talking about maintenance man mode. That's one aspect of the game that I feel has no place in a league at all. And this relic will really allow you to skip a majority of that.
Yeah, I agree. So for me, I'm not taking it, but I think it's an amazing relic. I really wish I could fit it in, but because it's up against Banker's Note and I'm taking Banker's Note, I can't fit it into my build. Basically what Perkfection gives you is all of your perks are always going to be the best, and I'm just simply going to have the second best perks. I'm going to do all the cheap ones that are easy to get, that aren't best in slot, but they're within 80% of the power level of the best in slot. It gives you infinite money by disassembling the construction materials. You will literally have unlimited gold with this relic.
Yes.
But gold in RS3, outside of the meme construction training, isn't super useful, and all the bosses drop so much salvage anyways. I don't think it's going to be a problem for me to get the money I need to do everything. And the divine charges, because I'm taking Excavator, I don't really need porters, so all of my energy is going into divine charges. So for those reasons, I'm opting to not take Perkfection, which would give you the easy invention, and taking Banker's Note for the easy rune crafting.
Okay, cool. Well, that leaves us at our number one spot. Specialist has the most consistent ranking, I would say, other than our F tier ones. So we synonymously ranked this S tier, which is the first S tier one that we have actually all agreed upon. So this is 4th overall for me, 4th overall for DIY, and first overall for Dustin. I think it's pretty obvious. If you're taking melee or ranged, you're taking this relic.
I agree for range. I think melee, you could go Ascension or this will both be really good. For range, it's an auto include, and then for magic and necro, it's don't take it.
I wouldn't say that Ascension is a choice for melee, because the only item that you need in that slot for melee is going to be the Grimoire, and if you're going to Solak, it's likely going to happen, hopefully quickly, at least within a couple hundred kills. And this gives you so much access to everything. I mean, first of all, it's the essence of finality that's given to you for free. At least one for free. The ability to choose whichever special attack that you want. And if we're looking at melee specifically, Dragon Claws are kind of the go-to if it were me. Because at this point you should already be going for an Exakill, and an Exakill spec without an Exakill it's not gonna work, unfortunately. Same thing with the Bowed Last Guardian. I don't know why. I'm looking at the list.
Does it not apply the effect correctly when you do it without the Exakill?
It's just like with the Bowed Last Guardian, it synergizes with the weapon. So you could put the effect into an EOF, yes. But if you're not casting that special effect with that weapon, the effect is like there's nothing. Nothing happens.
I see.
Yeah.
They essentially made it so that it wouldn't be turned into EOF fodder, is essentially how it got converted.
Gotcha.
And the Dark Shroud of Lang, that's kind of the same thing. You already have to build it up with the Lang swords. It's an odd, like really it's the standard spec weapons that we have now that you would put into an EOF. That's where you're going to benefit the most. And the fact that they just give you one, that's another switch you don't have to consider. You don't have to think about.
Did you consider the Sarah sword as a potential spec over the claws with the 100% adrenaline reduction?
I could see that, but the claw spec with the extra 50% more damage, you're going to be doing more damage than an easy K with one special attack.
The claws 4 hits, and each one of them is going to get capped at max hit, right? So you're going to get 120,000 damage every 15 seconds plus adrenaline dumping.
The claw average right now is between, it's like 60 to 70 in a Zerg per claw. So this just puts it up even higher. And if you stack it inside a crit rotation, you can claw like 3 or 4 times in a Zerg. And in that time, you're going to be doing close to, I would say you could probably roll close to 1 million damage in a Zerg.
Because you get 2 free on either end, and then you need 100 adrenaline. Yeah, you could do that. I see that.
It's going to be very strong, incredibly strong. And the fact that it's a multi-hit, you're benefiting the most from the claw itself, whereas the Sarah sword, you're going to be limited. Oh, actually, and I would like to branch off into the ranged side of it. So me personally, I'm going to be pushing Telos as soon as I possibly can, for the simple fact that I'm very comfortable with Telos. And at the point where drop rates are, you said it's ×6?
Yeah,
at the higher
max, yeah.
So already, if you're doing Telos at 2449, you're rolling about a 1 in 15 for anything. You multiply that 6 times over, that's what, 1 in 2, 1 in 3?
Basically, yeah.
Barring a couple decimals. Kills are going to be in the 2-minute range, maybe less. Especially if you're going in looking to get upgrade rather than going in after already being upgraded. The boss is going to be it's going to be trivial if you know what you're doing, and you're going to be able to immediately catapult directly out of there because of it.
Yeah, all of your time is going to be in the cutscenes going to the next floor.
Precisely.
That's amazing.
And to this point, I can skip the ECB grind, which I'm already a big fan of. Big fan of doing, because that, like, doing elite dungeons is going to be a slog. It's good. It's really not going to be fun. And the last thing I would expect anybody or want anyone to do is get caught up there, because that's a place that you can easily go dry. I know that people have seen images on Reddit of folks getting their whole crossbow or their whole log done in like 4 or 5 kills. That is most certainly not the average. But because with ranged, you're going to want a Bold Last Guardian as a weapon. You're going to want an SGB EOF, an ECB EOF, a Darkbow EOF, and then situationally a Saradomin bow, or a Zamorak bow EOF, depending on kind of what you're doing. This is going to give you a nice catapult towards that, and then it'll complement everything afterwards as well.
Yeah. So you're saying that you would take ECB over SGB 9 times out of 10 then, unless
Correct.
the boss is specifically a 5x5, like a large boss.
No, you would really use the SGB even if they're at 3x3, but anything that is 5x5, absolutely. When you get into smaller bosses than 3x3, it really loses its efficacy, and that's where a dark bow would kick in, because the ECB you're going to use already, especially when camping it with an Essence of Finality. The damage bonus that you get simply from the Amulet of Souls boosting your healing, now converted to split souling, it's enormous. It is already it's a crazy bonus to raw damage, and it does work everywhere.
Do they show the stats for this versus the book as well? Because they said they're both enhanced version with extra stats. Do we know what the stats are?
Not to my knowledge.
I think it's going to be a situation of someone takes it, you see their post on Reddit. So it might just be a wait until you see that post on Reddit to figure out just the very specifics. And most likely someone's going to probably post, the wiki will get updated as soon as someone makes that post. So hopefully I don't want to call them the innovators of the league, but basically the first people to hit relic tiers will be able to give the rest of the community that extra bit of information that makes people make that decision in an informed way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like the thing that for me, like this is the tier that I've gone the most back and forth on, which one I want. If the specialist relic ignores hit cap, it's miles ahead of Ascension. The Ascension just has like complete brain off, no interaction, hit harder. Whereas the spec is, if you set it up correctly, you'll hit like a freight train. And the four claws in a Zerk rotation that's crazy. I forgot to take into account that every 15 seconds it's free, because I was doing it with 2 when I was doing my calculations.
But the sheer damage increase, because like a Saren Godbow, you could hit 5 times at 30k a piece.
Mm-hmm.
The
Saren Godbow is crazy with this. With range, there's no question you take specialist. Specific just for melee is where I've been going back and forth on them. The Necro and Mage, they don't have specials, so I don't think it's worth it. Like Mage has 1 weapon that works, and Necro it's stupid to take because of the hit cap.
So just to finish it off, I just wanted to go quickly around the table and kind of like outline the path that you're planning on taking. With the caveat, obviously, that as more information comes out, this might change if you're like on the fence about 2 of them. But starting with DIY, by tier, what are you planning on taking?
So my 100% picks are Excavator, Farming Frenzy, Assassin's Insight, Clue Connoisseur, Barbarism. Tier 6 right now is Banker's Note. This is subject to change once we know what the tasks are. If there is a task where I have to sit in RuneSpan for 10 hours and do RuneSpan to get a master task done, I'm not taking Banker's Note. If that task doesn't exist, I'm taking it just to make runecrafting free. I don't want to have to spend time in RuneSpan, but I'll do it if there's points. Tier 7, Specialist and Ascension. I'm so torn between these 2. I don't think you can really make a wrong pick here. Specialist sounds so fun to just walk in and blow up a boss in 2 seconds. Ascension is brain off, number go burr. Like you're going to auto attack something, it's going to proc the Ascension, you're going to get 8 books, that thing is gone.
I like that we're not even considering Everlasting Faith.
You know what? I think we kind of outlined it with where they are in the tier list. I will say this: Everlasting Faith definitely gives you an opportunity to do a lot harder bosses with Like, as long as you're on, you're essentially jatting it, right? Like, you're not soul split flicking. You're essentially going 100% protection on, as long as you're praying correctly, most bosses are going to be free unless they have typeless damage.
I think you take Everlasting Faith if you take a relic. Let's say you go melee relic and you get full crit bloom and you're camping animate dead the whole time. You're gonna want Everlasting Faith. That's gonna go good with your build because nothing's
like
killing
using
you.
all that, using all that together.
You're gonna face tank everything. You're gonna click on the boss and your Revel Bar will kill it. Your health isn't gonna move.
That's so.
There is no boss in the game. Okay, I'm gonna walk that back for a second. If you are unfamiliar with a boss in the game, I think this is a safe relic to take.
Yeah,
because it will pretty easily teach you. Oh, I'm praying incorrectly. Let me pay attention to what's happening, and then you can take that knowledge back to the main game, and you can profit from it.
Yeah, I think this is a great exploratory perk, especially if you're going to be like, oh, I want to learn, maybe, let's say, or try Zammy at a very high percent. But realistically, I don't think it's going to build up the skill set. I think it will just be more a chance to experience those bosses at a higher percent. Or experience new bosses in general.
That's the skill set I'm referring to. Yeah. Because if you're learning to pray flick and you're being insulated by a constant soul split no matter what, like that's a little bit of a crutch. But you can take a lot of that knowledge and you can build off of it. But there is going to be a point of critical mass where it simply doesn't matter anymore, where you have the flicking down. You don't need that extra edge of soul split that's just passively rolling. That will really allow you to bend the game with the other available relics in that tier.
You know what? And I don't want to keep like drilling down on this thing because we've already talked about the actual relic itself. But yeah. I think this is going to be the ultimate perk or relic, that old school players that are trying RS3 for the first time take. Because they, with Ascension and Specialist, for RS3 veterans, these are going to be increasing your damage. It's going to allow you to push new DPS records. It's going to allow you to kill bosses faster. You're going to feel powerful. Whereas I feel like Everlasting Faith, if you're not particularly comfortable with the combat system, I think it's a great way of doing combat with that, again, that extra level of insulation. Mm-hmm. All right, Dustin, you're up next for what is your picking path?
Yeah, so my path, it's going to be Excavator in tier 1, Farming Frenzy in tier 2, Assassin's Insight in tier 3, Production Master tier 4, Bombardment in tier 5, Perkfection in tier 6, and Specialist in tier 7.
That seems super close to what I'm going to be doing. I think I've been kind of swayed over the conversations. You guys have made a very compelling point for Assassin's Insight. So I've actually changed my list since we started this conversation. So for me, I fully agree with you guys on the first two tiers. Excavator, Farming Frenzy, no problem. I was swayed from Voidwalker originally to what you guys are taking, which is Assassin Insight. I see, and the reason is because I see the benefits that Assassin's Insight gives clues as well as Slayer, whereas Voidwalker I was taking primarily to do clues efficiently. But I was actually discussing with someone on Reddit about this, that with Production Master, which is my tier 4 relic, you'll actually be able to create the jewelry super fast. So making that Passage of the Abyss won't actually be a problem at all. And actually putting the jewelry into it. So for that reason, I'm going to be taking Assassin's Insight, Production Master, Crit Happens, Perkfection, and Ascension. All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming on. And I guess we'll do the postmortem in 2 months or whenever all of us decide that we are done with leagues. Yeah. Cool.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.